Okay, let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining the Provar Winter 24 release 2. So we already had a release 2, I think it was 1 or 2 months ago. And this is going to be release 2. There's going to be another release in November, and that's going to be it for this year. Then the next one will be in January. But thank you everyone for joining. My name is Samuel Arroyo. I'm the VP of Product at Provar. And I'm very grateful for all of you joining today. I assume most of you are customers or partners or people interested in Provar. So thank you for your time. Thank you for using the tool, for trusting us for everything around quality and test automation. Today we will have an agenda similar to what we've had in previous release webinars, but this time I've added more information around other areas of the business that you may be interested in, for example, University of Provar. I also wanted to add a bit of time to talk about what happened at Dreamforce. What is it, like a month ago? I don't know if you could go, any of you could go, but if not, I'll try to just mention a few other things that I think will be interesting for all of us around quality and testing. And AI, like the whole thing was about AI, to be honest. And also I wanted to obviously give a bit of time for QA, and I will also be using some polls to gather your insights and your opinions and see what you think about some aspects of what we're doing. So let's get started by looking at each one of the different aspects of Provar. Let's start with Provar automation. And let's talk to you about the different new features and enhancements that you will be able to find in the latest version. So that is 2.11.2. If you use ProvarDX, which is our command line interface, similar to Ant, but an alternative to it, and it is a plugin for Salesforce's CLI. So if you're one of those that uses ProvarDX, probably as part of your CI pipeline, you will now be able to also configure reporting aspects. So you will be able to generate PDFs and also to send emails with those PDFs. Previously, that was only available for those that used Ant, but now if you use ProvarDX, you can also use Ant. Also, some of our customers were having issues with the way that we handle auth on Windows. I think we were defaulting to using Internet Explorer, which is out of support. So we are now defaulting to Microsoft Edge, which I believe is installed in every Windows computer. And that is the one that will be used when you're trying to authorize your user on a Windows machine. Thirdly, if you are using UI Connections, a UI step for connecting to a particular UI, like you have a UI that uses maybe username and password to log into that website, now we allow you to set up that basic auth credentials in it. So as you add your UI connection step, you will be able to define your username, password. And if you remember on the latest release, on the last one, we allow you to use SSO and multi-factor authentication. So I think this adds to it. And if you are one of those that uses UI connections to connect to your websites or other sites out there, you now can use this functionality. Jumping onto Test Builder, we continue working on it and trying to improve the UX and also adding support. So we are adding support for dual Listbox or components. So those are the components where you have two boxes with items on each one, and you can sort of select which ones you want to move to the other list, and that way it's like a multi-pick list sort of functionality. So if you're using that in your Aura components, now you can easily map that with Test Builder. We've also improved the UI so that as you hover or put your cursor on top of a row, you don't have to right-click edit or right-click delete. You will see a couple of icons to the right that will appear as you hover, and you can click it. So we removed one click from the whole interaction. And also some users
told us that it wasn't easy to understand which fields were required when editing a test step. So we now highlight by default all the mandatory fields, trying to make it easy to use. And I put there a little thing to say poll so that I don't forget to actually send a poll. So I'm interested if you could help me out to understand what tools are you using to author test cases. My understanding is that a lot of people use Test Builder. Some people don't use Test Builder, they use Studio. So Studio is like the Eclipse lookalike. And some people may be actually not using any of those and just using page objects. So I'm just gonna launch this poll and hopefully you can illuminate me with your opinion. So what Provar tool are you using to author test cases? Take into account that your answer will help us put more time and investment on each one of the tools. And internally, we have some opinions on should we put more time and effort on Test Builder or maybe not because people are not using it. So it's good to get your feedback. And in a way, you're helping us define the roadmap and how much effort goes into the backlog. Okay, 15 more seconds. Okay. I don't know if you can see my screen, but otherwise I'll tell you. Test Builder, 91% of the respondents, so 76%, like 32 people answered. Test Builder is 91% of the users use Test Builder to build their test cases. Then a low percentage uses just page objects with code, and the other 3% use Studio ID. Thank you very much for that. Okay, next. I wanted to talk about NitroX very briefly, just to remind you that this is our newest technology. I don't know if you're aware of other test automation tools out there, how much they talk about their R&D investment, how much they're doing to not just jump on the bandwagon of AI and create all these features that probably their customers don't use, but a lot of investment in Provar has gone into this technology, which is an improvement from the old way of doing things using page objects. At the moment, we're gonna go GA with it on the next release. And that means that you will be able to use this technology, which at the moment supports 85% of the base line-away components. So if you're a Provar user, if you're a tester that wants to test a line-away component, I think at the moment you have to use page objects. And sometimes it's clunky or you may not like how it works. This new technology, if you're not aware of it, uses a different framework that we've developed basically from scratch. We use things that page objects cannot use. For example, information that is on the page but it's not being rendered is only can only be queried using JavaScript, for example. So we've developed a technology that is able to build more robust ways of understanding your component as you've built it. So we're planning to go GA, and by default, as you try to map a base line-away component, you will be using NitroX. You can always switch back to the legacy approach with page objects, but we're trying to push this technology out there because not only it supports, it provides better support for line-away components, but also it's faster, much faster, and easier to maintain. So at the moment it's beta, but from the next release, we're planning to go GA with it. Now we have something in the roadmap for NitroX. So one of the things that we're working on right now is on mapping tables. So when you find a table, and that could be a data table, it could be a tree component, it could be just a basic HTML table that your developers may have put into one of the pages using Anyway components. We're trying to understand how you're mapping that right now. So if you're not aware, we do have some functionality right now. If you use, for example, Test Builder, there's a step called a table map, and you can map your table using that. So I have a very quick poll. I just want to understand if you've ever come across having to test a table, and if you remember how you used it. Basically, to understand if we need to provide a better way of doing this, if you didn't understand the UI, if you had to use page objects and code because what we provided wasn't good enough. But yeah, internally, we also have a debate on how many tables do people use, and are they interested in testing them? How do they test them? Okay, I'll allow you just a few more seconds. Okay. So I don't know if you can see this, but let's say half the people who answered never or rarely use the table mapping functionality. 40% or so sometimes use it, and 15% or so use it quite often. Please put in the chat if you feel like it's a good tool, it's intuitive enough, it does the job, or it breaks down at some point, it should be improved, either because your tables are just too complex or things like that. We're trying to make sure that NitroX works great with the base Anyway components like data tables and tree grid, but also provide a way of mapping tables outside of that scope that works almost for everything, and it's just a good experience. Cool. Let's move on to Provar Manager. Provar Manager is our quality hub or our quality lifecycle management app. And we do have a couple of improvements on it, 2 new features. One of them is we've improved on the retry test cycle mechanism that we introduced, I think it was the last release. So especially if you're using ProvarGrid, now when you try to retry some executions, we will make sure that you are not retrying on platforms that you didn't select, or browsers that you didn't select, or even test suites that were too much. So basically just make it more to the point of what you wanted to retry. And also, one of the things that we were noticing ourselves is as we start to orchestrate and run a lot of executions, it was too cumbersome to just try to find where the execution was and what was the result, just staying on top of it, really. So now you will find on the bottom bar, what is usually called the utility bar, there's a recent job button. As you click it, you will see something like this. So you will see a timeline of all the jobs you've executed. They could be Apex unit test executions, or executions using ProvarGrid, or anything that has been run and orchestrated from Manager. And you can see how it's going. You can abort it from here. You can refresh it, and you can just basically just quickly navigate through it. Moving on to ProvarGrid. So ProvarGrid is our execution in the cloud. We've improved the artifact download mechanism. So previously we had some issues on zip files that were bigger than like 10 megabytes. So now we've overcome that. So the same way that when you run it locally or on your CI pipeline, you can generate a zip file or the test results locally with a PDF and the JUnit test results. all of that goes into a zip file that you can download for every execution in Grid. For those customers that use GitHub but use the enterprise version of it, either Enterprise Cloud or Enterprise Server, now we also support that. So if that was preventing you from trying Grid, now it's time to start looking into it again. And finally, if we were previously asking everyone using Grid to have the test project at the root level of their repositories, now we support the test project to be on a different folder in case your repository looks different. So we're just adding more flexibility, trying to cater to as many customers as possible with whatever tools they use and whatever way they use Provar. Let's continue to the platform updates. So these are updates and changes that apply to automation or that are basically technology updates. So now we support Chrome 117 and 118. If you've been following our notices and emails and release webinars, you may be aware that we are going to introduce a license check for CLI executions. So that is ProvarDX and executions. If you have a pipeline or you're running using any of those, so using any of our CLI execution ways, then on this new release, the check for a license is enabled by default. You can still turn it off. So there's a properties file that you can switch on and off as a feature, but now it's enabled by default. So we've tried to ask each one of our customers to check that you have the correct license information in your project, so that when you run it, it will look at it and let you do it. But it was optional before. Now it is enabled by default, and you may have, if you're running on the latest version on 2.11.2, you may have noticed maybe your pipeline stopped working because you didn't have the license properly configured in your test project. If that's the problem, then look at the release notes. I think we have a link there to our documentation where it tells you how to put the license information in your test project so that you can continue running it. You can turn it off for now until you fix it. And I think on the next release in November, the opportunity to turn it off and on will be removed. So it will be enabled by default, and that's going to be it. Another thing that we mentioned on the previous release was that a project upgrade was coming. So I know this might be a bit of disruption for your users, but we've been working on this product for 10 years now. So there are things that we didn't do before in terms of architecture of the product and that we eventually had to do. So this is one of those times where we realized we need to just make sure that every test project has the right things in it so that we can remove some of the inconsistencies. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, for example, that if you have a test plan with test instances pointing to a test case, if you change the name of the test case or move it around, that test instance will be broken because it's using the path of the test case and the path is different. So it's broken and it no longer works. Or if you're changing the name of an environment or the name of a connection, every other place that was using that connection may be broken and you need to replace it. So all these links between different aspects of the tool that we're using, like hard-coded values like a name or a path, what we're doing now, we're introducing global unique identifiers to all of these components so that when you move things around or rename them, these links don't break. To do that, we are asking you to upgrade your Provar project. So as you install the new version of Provar and you load your project, you will see a pop-up like the one that is shown in that screenshot. And it's going to tell you your test project needs to be upgraded to improve its performance and cohesion. It shouldn't take that much time. It will depend on how big your test project is, to be honest. And the thing is, it's going to be generating unique identifiers for a lot of the things in the project. If you're working in a team, two people working on the same test project, you shouldn't run this twice because both of you are going to be generating different IDs. And when you try to put that into a repository, it's going to be a mess. So the warning there is you should only run this process in a test project. Only do it once, and then check that into Git and let everyone use it so that you're not generating duplicate IDs and getting into merge conflicts. If you end up messing up, which could happen, we've provided a tool within test automation to downgrade the project and remove all the IDs so that you can go through the process again and do it properly. So even if you mess up, we have you covered. But yeah, if you have any questions, please let us know. And then, yeah, again, if we're asking everyone to go through it, but if you're not confident that you know what you're doing, you can skip it, contact us, and we will help you through it. I think this is the last one. Yeah. So I wanted to mention University Provar, which I didn't last time, because we have a few certifications and things that the team has been working on. So the first one is the PIC certification. I think it's quite easy to do, doesn't take that much time, and it gets you through most of what Provar does. So take a look and see if that's something you want to do. If you don't have a clue about Grid, you haven't heard about it, and it sounds like a new thing that you may be interested in, there's a 5 minutes micro learning thing we have on University of Provar, where you can understand a bit of Grid and what it does. If you are one of those people that love Trailhead and use it as a platform to learn, we've put out a new course on continuous testing. So check that out and get some points and a badge. And finally, we are working on, I think it was a new course called AI for Test Automation. So the team is working on that. I don't know when it's going to be live, maybe for the next release. But yeah, keep an eye on it. Okay, so we have 20 minutes left. Let's jump onto Q&A. Let's do that for maybe 10 minutes, see what's on the Q&A. So I'm going to try and answer everything, and then I'm going to try and leave 10 minutes at the end to go through Dreamforce and maybe have a discussion about it, see what you guys think about it. Okay, so looking at Q&A, we have Pavel Petrov. Why is the test optimization, which is suggested by a new dialog, each time I open a project? Okay, so I mentioned that. Basically, we are trying to make the test project more perform better and more cohesively to remove these errors that we're having with people obviously moving test cases from one place to another and renaming things. Do we still need to use custom Java code for SSO logins? Yeah, I asked internally, even after the changes that we did last time. I think that gets you a bit further, but I believe we still need some Java code to do that, to handle how the SSO works. Also, we're going to have a post in the community, the Provar forum, to continue the Q&A. So all the product managers will be jumping on there as you ask your questions. Anything that couldn't be answered here, or you want to dive deeper into it, please go to the Provar forum and we can continue discussion there. Let's go. Do you have any examples for dual Listbox Aura components? Could probably just search it. So this is the, forget about the code. This is how it looks like. You may have seen that before. Is the way that developers will implement. If you ask them, can I select multiple things? So this puts like a multi-choice instead of a pick list like this one. It will be this dual. So 2 list boxes. That's the component. what should I choose if I use both test builder and page objects? So usually if we have good support for a particular aspect of especially Salesforce that you're testing, like we provide our own page objects, we provide our own way of mapping for it, then usually test builder will pick it up, understand what you're doing, where you're at, understand the context, and provide you with a mapping already, so you don't have to create a page object. That's usually the way to go. And if that doesn't happen and it's asking you to just go with a page object, then it's probably because we don't have specific special support for that thing you're trying to test. But also, if you would like, if it's something that is going to happen quite often, like a particular aspect of the tool that you're going to use a lot in your test cases, you can raise that up with support and tell them, hey, can you provide a bit of help with this? So that I don't have to use that page object and the support is given by Provar. Have you compared NitroX performance with the current stable approach? Which one is faster, or are they the same? So we've run not too many examples, but the ones that we ran, we did like maybe 5 tests of using a page object on a line away component and 5 tests using NitroX. NitroX was more than 50% faster. It was much faster. I think not only because it uses JavaScript, but I think the way it waits for things to be rendered is much more efficient than page objects. Also, we use something called dynamic locators. So you're able to do something like what other people call self-healing in a way. So instead of just having one way of locating something on the page, you could provide different attributes and we can try and find the right combination to locate it on the page. So it's both faster and more robust. On the next release, so now it's in beta, you can turn it on if you want. But on the next one, where it will be on by default, you can do your own tests. You can map something with page object, map it with NitroX, and see how fast your test case runs. Can you show how to find that table map step? So I don't have Provar here right now, but let's go for Google, my good old friend. So we have a whole document on custom table mapping. This is Provar Test Builder. And if you click on the test palette, so that test palette button there next to the stop, that will bring up a lot of items that are test steps that you can use. One of them is add a table mapping. And what it does is you define what's the table name, the locators for the table, the data rows, header, and so on. So clicking that button, you can locate the table on the page and so on. And it's a bit intuitive, and you can look at this document and try to use it as a guide on how it will work, and you will come up with a page object that otherwise you will have to manually build. So it sort of builds the page object for you in a bit more intuitive way. Chat is disabled. Yeah, use the Q&A if you can. Table mapping needs some improvement. There was a scenario where I faced a problem using where clause. Okay, that's good to know. Grid is the support GitHub Enterprise, including Bitbucket. So the team is currently working on, I think it's Bitbucket Enterprise. Some of our customers, I think they use Bitbucket Enterprise. We need to implement support, test it, and I think probably by November, by the next release, we may be able to offer Bitbucket Enterprise. Where can I read more about this relative project location feature? I think that's in the release notes. If you've seen, as you configure a test plan schedule in Manager that uses Provar Grid, you usually have a window and it tells you all the different features that you may want to use, like what's the concurrency for grid. And now there's an input text where you can define your relative project path. So if you look at your repo, you may find that the only thing in it is the test project folder, or you may have something else. If what you see is the test project folder, you should put that folder name as a relative path, and that way it will work for you. But yeah, otherwise, like just it's on the release notes, I believe. Yeah, I think the release notes should be out. Definitely, you probably got the email. Release notes. Minute 24. So here you have more detail and screenshots on all the things that I've been talking about. I didn't want to go into too much detail and bore you with demos and so on, but yeah, take a look, try by yourself. Brett, you're asking tool name. I don't know what you mean. And if you can ask on the chat or otherwise. All right, to undo the upgrade. It is, as you open Provar Automation, it's on the, I think it's on the Tools menu. You click Tools, and I think it says Downgrade Test Project. What it will do is it will remove all the IDs that it generated, so you're back on a sort of clean slate. Yeah. Let's see if I can get through them. All of them. While testing in Salesforce Community Portal, I see very less support. Can get through Test Builder, like find locators, navigate to different tabs, scroll down. Okay, so support for things like Experience Cloud, so Salesforce Communities, is good when you let us know how much you need that. Like tell us, yeah, we need to test Experience Cloud, because that will help us to decide if we want to invest time providing more specific out-of-the-box support for it. And even looking at the roadmap for NitroX, I think Experience Cloud is one of the things that happens sooner rather than later. Right, I have a question regarding the performance and cohesion upgrade. Updating the test project may cause problems with tests that are in the project or simple improvements. Everything should work. So once you upgrade the project, everything will work the same. And now if you rename a test case, it won't break the related test instances, for example. No, actually, it will still break them. So what we've done in this release is to just generate the UI, the global unique identifiers. And on the next release, we will start actually using them. So we couldn't fit everything into one release. So we decided to disrupt a bit your use of Provar, asking you to upgrade. Once you upgrade, we will start generating unique identifiers for almost everything. So you will be in a good place so that when we start on the next release and onwards, use those unique identifiers for your integration with Manager and internal cohesion, then you will be in a good place. So it's not going to break anything. I think, yes, apart from the release notes, Pavel, there are some new documentation pages, but I couldn't tell you right now which ones they are. Probably around the basic Auth UI connection. I reckon there will be a new page for that. Okay, cool. If you have more questions, if something wasn't clear or I was just too fast trying to explain something, again, please use the community and we can continue the conversation there. So let me just talk about a couple of topics that were explained or showcased at Dreamforce. Obviously, they talk about AI quite a lot. Everything was about AI and how they use it for everything. Another thing is you can get your hands on it. But I think there were two topics I wanted to discuss with all of you. One is obviously the new Einstein1 Platform. If you're not aware of what that is, basically is their way of saying this is everything AI that we do. So it includes tools like Einstein Copilot. That is a reference to the way that they embed AI into all the different clouds and services they provide, like having chatbots or some sort of flows to automatically do things for you. And then from an admin point of view, the way you enable those things, configure them, is using Copilot Studio, where you can provide your own prompts and test them. You can define sort of like a workflow, AI workflow, and call that a skill. So if you use Alexa, they also call their own things skills. Hopefully I didn't trigger your Alexa in your house. And then the model. So how do you configure the model that you want to use? Are you using OpenAI or using Anthropic? What model are you using? And also, if you use Salesforce Enterprise or Ultimate, then they will give you some free Data Cloud and Tableau licenses, because you will need Data Cloud to leverage Einstein1. And Tableau will help you build some nice dashboards around it. So there is a lot of caveats on what free is, what are the limitations on that. But I think basically they're trying to help you get started with it, tinker with it, see how it works, and if it can help your company. So the next topic, more related to testing, is Scale Center. So Scale Center is a new tool within, I think, the setup. So it's usually for admins to help them schedule and schedule their performance tests. Usually, if you wanted to test the performance of your Salesforce instance, you had to arrange a time with Salesforce so that they were aware of it and they wouldn't flag it as a DDoS attack or something dodgy. So I think they're trying to make that more usable, user-friendly. And I think it's one of those things that customers sometimes ask us, do we do performance testing? Not like you can through these tools. I think this is an angle that we just can't provide because it's quite invasive. So take a look at Scale Center. I don't know if it's GA, it may be beta. I don't remember now. But if you're interested in testing the performance of how like your pages and certain aspects of your tool, this may be something that you want to try and see how much load it can take. The second thing is Apex Guru Insights, which if you are trying to remove technical debt from your company and your implementation, but especially if your end users are complaining that something is very slow, like something that your developers created is very slow, or when you save a record, it just takes ages to do it because of all the things that are happening in the background. Apex Guru Insights recommends you things to improve in your code so that it runs faster. So that is really to improve the quality of your code in a way, but also directly improve the performance. So I just wanted to ask, with a quick poll of these two topics, what is your interest level, to be honest? Are you interested in Einstein1 and the data cloud? Are you thinking of using that in any way, shape, or form? And are you interested in using the Scale Center and Apex Guru Insights? I think especially with Scale Center and Apex Guru Insights, if it's beta or anything, like we can ask Salesforce for access. Maybe we can write some blog posts and share them across and show you how it works, what it does, how to use it. I think that will probably help each one of us. So we have a split
for the level of interest on Einstein, and then a bit of a, I don't know if you can see this. So interest on Einstein1 and Data Cloud is a split between high, medium, and low, a bit lower, to be honest. It's not easy. So at the moment, Data Cloud is almost like a different database. I don't know how they're going to mix both things and migrate to Data Cloud. That's still up in the air. So we'll see how that works. And with Scale Center, we have high level of interest. So yeah, I'll talk internally to the content team and see if we can get some information out there on how to use it, how to sign up if it's beta. I don't remember right now. But definitely if performance testing is something you're interested in, then why not? Cool. Okay, perfect. So we're right on time. Thank you very much for all your questions, for staying until the end. As I said before, let's continue the conversation in the Provar forum. If I didn't have time to answer your questions, if you're interested in the new things coming up, especially Provar Grid, NitroX, if you haven't tried Provar Manager as well, so just drop a message in the Provar forum, go to discourse.provar.com. And last thing, before I forget, once we finish the webinar, a survey will pop out. And basically, we just want to ask you how useful was this and if there's any way that we could improve it. So I would really appreciate if you can fill out the survey. Thank you very much to all.